I was sitting in my lawyer's office when my son Bradley walked in with a psychiatrist and announced that I was too senile to manage my own properties. He said this while I was literally in the middle of reviewing a contract to purchase my 7th apartment building. The psychiatrist looked at me with that practiced sympathy they reserve for Alzheimer's patients and asked if I knew what year it was. I told her it was 2024. I was 72 years old, and if she didn't leave my lawyer's office in the next 30 seconds, I would buy the medical building where she rented her practice and evict her. Bradley's face went white. Turns out, my kids thought I owned one little rental property. They had no idea I owned half the real estate in this town. This is going to be fun. My name is Margaret Chen, and I've been playing dumb for 40 years. Not because I had to, but because it was easier. My late husband Richard was one of those men who needed to feel like he was in charge, so I let him think he was. While he was busy taking credit for every financial decision, I was the one actually making them. Richard was great at many things. He was charming, handsome, excellent at golf, but numbers made his eyes glaze over. So I handled all the finances while he handled all the talking. We started with one duplex in 1985. Richard told everyone at his office that he was building a real estate empire. What he was actually doing was playing golf while I dealt with contractors, screened tenants, handled repairs, and saved every penny we made. When Richard died 5 years ago from a heart attack on the golf course, the 14th hole, he would have been proud. Everyone assumed I'd fall apart. Poor Margaret, they said. She doesn't know anything about money. Richard handled everything. I let them think that. Meanwhile, I quietly accumulated property like some people collect ceramic cats. Every time I bought a new building, I put it under a different LLC. My kids knew I had the rental house, which is what they called the original duplex. They had no idea about the other 6 apartment buildings, the commercial plaza, the 3 office buildings, or the small hotel I'd just acquired. I have 3 children, and I love them dearly, which makes what they tried to do even more hilarious. Bradley is 45, my oldest. He's a middle manager at a tech company, which means he has just enough success to think he's smarter than everyone else, but not enough to actually be comfortable. He drives a leased BMW and wears expensive suits to hide the fact that he's drowning in credit card debt. I know this because I accidentally saw his credit report when he tried to use me as a reference for a loan. 720 credit score. Cute. My daughter Patricia is 43. She married a dentist named Howard, and they live in a house that's 2 sizes too big for them in a neighborhood where everyone competes over whose kitchen renovation cost more. Patricia throws dinner parties where she serves tiny portions of expensive food and complains about how hard it is to find good help. She also complains that I never gave her proper inheritance when Richard died. I gave each of the kids $50,000. She spent it on a kitchen backsplash. Then there's my baby, Derek. He's 40 and still finding himself. He's had 17 different jobs, 3 failed startups, and currently teaches yoga while working on his novel. He's the only one who occasionally asks how I'm doing instead of how much money I have, which is why he's getting the hotel in my will. It started 3 weeks ago. Patricia called and said the family needed to have a serious talk about my future. She used that voice people use when they're about to suggest putting you in a home. I met them at Patricia's house, where she served coffee in cups that cost more than my first car, and arranged us in her living room like we were doing a magazine photo shoot. Bradley cleared his throat importantly. He's always clearing his throat importantly. I think he saw it in a movie once. Mom, we're worried about you. I'm fine, honey. Are you, though? Patricia leaned forward with practiced concern. You're living alone in that big house. You're 72 years old. Dad's been gone for 5 years. I'm aware of all of those facts. We think it might be time to consider your options, Bradley said. What options? Well, Patricia exchanged a look with Bradley. We've been talking, and we think you might be more comfortable in a senior living community. I took a sip of overpriced coffee. You want to put me in a home? Not a home, Mom. A community. With activities and people your own age. I have activities. I have people. Playing bridge with Doris from church doesn't count, Patricia said. Doris from church is my property manager. We weren't playing bridge. We were negotiating a bulk purchase discount with a roofing company. But I didn't correct her. Bradley jumped in. The thing is, Mom, we're also concerned about your ability to manage your finances. There it was. My finances are fine. Are they, though? When's the last time you balanced your checkbook? This morning. This was true. I balance it every morning. I'm obsessive about it. Mom, you don't need to pretend. We know Dad handled all the money stuff. You probably don't even know how much you have in the bank. I knew exactly how much I had in the bank. I had 7 different bank accounts across 4 institutions. But I just nodded vaguely. The rental house probably needs work you can't afford, Patricia said. Old properties are money pits. The rental house had been completely renovated 2 years ago and was cash flowing beautifully. But again, I said nothing. Here's what we're thinking, Bradley said, pulling out a folder. Of course he had a folder. We sell the big house and the rental property. That should give you enough to live comfortably in a nice senior community. We can help you manage the money. How generous. He missed the sarcasm entirely. We've already talked to a real estate agent. The house should sell quickly. The rental property might take longer. But no. Mom, you're not thinking clearly. I said no. Patricia's sympathetic expression cracked slightly. Mom, we're trying to help you. You can't keep living in denial about your capabilities. What capabilities am I denying? Your ability to manage properties, finances, your own care. I manage just fine. Bradley sighed like I was a difficult child. Mom, when's the last time you filed taxes? April 15th. On time, as I do every year. Who helped you? My accountant. See? You need help with basic tasks. Bradley, you have an accountant. Does that make you incompetent? That's different. How? He couldn't answer that. So he went back to the folder. We've consulted with an attorney. You consulted with an attorney about me? For you, Mom. To protect you. There are legal mechanisms to ensure your assets are properly managed. You want power of attorney. Patricia jumped in quickly. It's just a precaution, in case something happens. We'd never use it unless absolutely necessary. I looked at my 3 children sitting there in their expensive clothes, in their expensive house, drinking expensive coffee, and plotting to take my money. The money I'd spent 40 years accumulating. The money they didn't even know existed. I need to think about it. Of course, Bradley said, smiling like he'd won. Take your time. But Mom, we really do think this is for the best. I left Patricia's house and sat in my paid-off Toyota Camry, 15 years old, runs perfectly, and laughed until I cried. I called my attorney, Margaret Wu. Yes, we have the same first name. Yes, we think it's funny. We've been friends for 30 years, and she's handled every property purchase I've made. Margaret, my kids are trying to declare me incompetent. Your kids are idiots. I love them. You can love idiots. My brother is an idiot. I love him. Still an idiot. They want power of attorney. Absolutely not. Over my dead body. Over your dead body. Over everyone's dead body. This is why I like Margaret Wu. They think I own 1 rental house. She laughed so hard she snorted. They don't know? Never told them. Margaret Chen, you own 17 properties worth approximately, let me check my notes, $5.2 million, and your children think you own 1 duplex? To be fair, it's a nice duplex. This is the best thing I've heard all year. What are you going to do? I'm going to let them try. Try what? To take my properties. I want to see how far they'll go. Margaret Wu was quiet for a moment. You're diabolical. I love it. But we need to protect you legally. I know. That's why I'm calling. 2 weeks later, Bradley called and asked me to meet him at Margaret Wu's office. He said he wanted to make sure I understood the documents we'd be reviewing. I knew exactly what was happening, and Margaret Wu was ready. I showed up in my oldest cardigan, the one with the moth holes, and my reading glasses on a chain. I'd mussed my hair a bit. I looked like every stereotype of a confused elderly woman. Bradley was already there with a woman in her 50s, wearing a power suit and carrying a leather briefcase. Mom, this is Dr. Linda Harrison. She's a psychiatrist who specializes in geriatric cognitive assessment. How nice, I said vaguely, settling into my chair like it was hard work. Dr. Harrison smiled with practiced warmth. Mrs. Chen, I'm just here to ask you a few questions. Nothing to worry about. Questions? Just to assess your current cognitive state. It's completely routine. Margaret Wu, sitting at her desk, was trying not to smile. Mrs. Chen, do you know what year it is? Of course. Could you tell me? 2024. Very good. And do you know where you are? My lawyer's office. Excellent. Can you tell me who the current president is? I pretended to think hard. Is it still Reagan? Bradley looked triumphant. Dr. Harrison made a note. Margaret Wu coughed to hide a laugh. No, Mrs. Chen. Ronald Reagan hasn't been president for quite some time. Oh, well, they all blur together. I understand. Mrs. Chen, can you count backwards from 100 by sevens? Why would I do that? It's just a test. Of what? My ability to do pointless math? Dr. Harrison smiled tightly. Could you try, please? 193, 86. I paused like I was thinking hard. 79? Very good. Continue. I'm tired. This is exhausting. Just a few more. 72, 65. I need to sit down. You are sitting down, Mrs. Chen. Oh, right. Bradley was practically glowing. Dr. Harrison was scribbling notes. Mrs. Chen, can you tell me how many properties you own? Properties? Buildings? Real estate? How many do you own? The house I live in. Any others? There's a rental. Bradley, what did your father call it? The duplex? That's right, Mom, the duplex. So 2 properties, Dr. Harrison said. Your home and a rental duplex. I think so. Margaret, is that right? I looked at Margaret Wu. Margaret Wu's eyes were sparkling. Mrs. Chen, how many properties do you believe you own? 2. The house and the duplex thing. And Mrs. Chen, do you know the current value of those properties? Value? How much they're worth? Oh, no, Richard always handled that sort of thing. Dr. Harrison made more notes. Mrs. Chen, your husband passed away 5 years ago. Who's been managing your finances since then? Managing? Paying bills? Handling accounts? That sort of thing. I pay bills. I think. There are so many envelopes. Do you balance your checkbook? My what? Your bank account. Do you track your spending? I don't spend much. Soup is cheap. Bradley couldn't help himself. Mom lives very frugally, Doctor. We're concerned she doesn't understand that she has resources available. I see. More notes. This went on for another 20 minutes. I played confused, vague, and slightly addled. Dr. Harrison asked me to remember 3 words and repeat them back later. I got 2 out of 3. She asked me to draw a clock. I drew it with the hands pointing to the wrong time. She asked me to name as many animals as I could in 1 minute. I named 6 and then said cat 3 more times. By the end, Dr. Harrison looked satisfied and sympathetic. Mrs. Chen, thank you for your patience. I'm going to step outside with your son for a moment. They went into the hallway. Margaret Wu and I sat in silence for exactly 10 seconds before we both burst out laughing. You said cat 3 times, Margaret Wu wheezed. I couldn't think of more animals fast enough. You own a $5.2 million real estate portfolio, and you said cat 3 times. We were still laughing when Bradley and Dr. Harrison came back in. Dr. Harrison sat down with a serious expression. Mrs. Chen, I've had a chance to review your assessment with your son. I have some concerns about your cognitive state. Oh dear, it's nothing to be alarmed about, but I do think you may be experiencing some age-related cognitive decline that's affecting your ability to manage complex tasks, like finances and property management. I manage fine. I'm sure you think you do, and that's very common, but the tests suggest you might benefit from some assistance. Bradley leaned forward. Mom, Dr. Harrison thinks it would be best if someone helped you with the complicated stuff. The property management, the finances, all of that. I have Margaret for that. I gestured at Margaret Wu. I mean family, Mom. Someone who has your best interests at heart. Margaret Wu finally spoke up. Mr. Chen, your mother is my client. I have a fiduciary duty to protect her interests. Before we discuss any transfer of authority, I need to ensure we're operating within proper legal guidelines. Of course, Bradley said smoothly. That's why we brought Dr. Harrison, to provide professional documentation of Mom's challenges. I see. Dr. Harrison, what specifically did you find concerning? Dr. Harrison consulted her notes. Mrs. Chen showed difficulty with recall, basic arithmetic, orientation to time, and executive function. Her responses suggest someone who may not be capable of managing complex financial decisions. Interesting, Margaret Wu said. She opened her own folder. Mrs. Chen, despite these alleged cognitive difficulties, you filed your taxes on time this year, correct? My accountant helped. But you provided him with all the necessary documentation? Receipts, income statements, expense records? I suppose. And you've been managing 7 different bank accounts across 4 institutions without any missed payments, overdrafts, or errors? Bradley's head snapped up. 7 bank accounts? Did I say 7? I meant the accounts, Mrs. Chen manages for her various properties. What various properties? Margaret Wu smiled. Oh, did your mother not mention, Mrs. Chen? How many properties do you own? I dropped the confused act and looked directly at Bradley. 17. The room went very quiet. 17. What? Bradley said. Properties. I own 17 properties. Patricia, who had been silent until now, actually laughed. Mom, you own the house and the duplex. That's 2. No, honey. I own the house I live in. The original duplex, 6 apartment buildings, 3 office buildings, 1 commercial plaza, and a small hotel. That's not funny, Mom. I'm not joking. Margaret Wu pulled out another folder. I have the documentation right here. Would you like to see the deeds? She spread them across the desk. 17 property deeds, all in the name of various LLCs, all with Margaret Chen as the sole member. Bradley picked one up with shaking hands. This says, this is the Riverside Apartments. You own the Riverside Apartments? Yes. But that building has 24 units. 26, actually. We converted the basement. Patricia grabbed another deed. The Morrison Office Complex? Mom, I know this building. Howard's oral surgeon has an office there. 3rd floor, Dr. Stevens. Nice man. Always pays his rent on time. Derek, who had been quiet this whole time, picked up the hotel deed. Mom, is this the Beacon Inn? I just bought that. The previous owners wanted to retire. I stayed there for a conference last year. I know. You left a very nice review on TripAdvisor. Thank you for that. Bradley was turning an interesting shade of red. This has to be fake. These documents are completely legitimate, Margaret Wu interrupted. Filed with the county, taxes paid in full, all managed through legal entities established over the past 40 years. But Dad, your father played a lot of golf. Your mother built a real estate empire. While pretending to be a confused old lady, Bradley's voice was rising. I wasn't pretending, I said calmly. Until today. Today I was pretending. For the last 40 years, I was just letting everyone underestimate me. Dr. Harrison looked completely bewildered. Mrs. Chen, you drew a clock wrong. I drew the clock you expected to see from someone you'd already decided was incompetent. But you couldn't remember 3 words. You said apple, table, and penny. I remembered them fine. I just didn't repeat them back because I was busy being confused. You said cat 3 times. I did do that, I admitted. I genuinely couldn't think of more animals fast enough. But I could have just said no if I were actually impaired. Margaret Wu was grinning. Dr. Harrison, did you perform any assessment tests that required actual cognitive skills related to financial management? That's not typically part of a standard geriatric assessment. So you tested whether Mrs. Chen could count backwards by 7s, but not whether she could calculate ROI on a real estate investment? The backwards counting tests, executive function. Mrs. Chen, What's the cap rate on the Riverside apartments? I didn't even have to think. 6.8%. It was 6.2% when I bought it. But after the renovations and rent increases, we're at 8%. And your total portfolio value? 5.2 million in property value, with 1.8 million in remaining mortgage debt, for a net worth of 3.4 million in real estate alone. Plus, approximately 800,000 inches liquid assets across various accounts. The room was silent. Any confusion about those numbers? Margaret Wu asked sweetly. Dr. Harrison closed her notebook. Mr. Chen, I don't think I can provide the documentation you were looking for. But she played a role, very convincingly, I might add. But Mrs. Chen clearly has full cognitive function and has been managing a complex real estate portfolio successfully for decades. Bradley turned to me. You set this up. You knew we were coming here and you set this whole thing up. You brought a psychiatrist to my lawyer's office to have me declared incompetent so you could take control of my assets. I simply decided to see how far you'd go. We were trying to help you. No, you were trying to help yourselves. Patricia found her voice. Mom, we didn't know you had all this. If we'd known. What? You wouldn't have tried to take it? You'd only try to take my property if you thought it was just one duplex? That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? She couldn't answer. Derek spoke up quietly. I didn't want any of this, Mom. I told them it was a bad idea. I looked at him and smiled. I know, honey. Why do you think you're getting the hotel? His jaw dropped. I'm what? In my will. The Beacon Inn goes to you. Mom, I can't run a hotel. You can learn. Or you can hire someone to run it and collect the income. Either way, it's yours. Bradley exploded. This is insane. You can't just give him a hotel. I can do whatever I want. It's my hotel. We're your children too. Yes, and you just tried to have me declared incompetent so you could steal my property. Not steal. What would you call it? Patricia tried a different approach. Mom, please. We made a mistake. We were worried about you. We didn't understand. You didn't understand that your mother might be capable of managing her own life? That's not fair, isn't it? You assumed I was helpless without your father. You assumed I couldn't handle basic finances. You never asked if I needed help. You just decided I was incompetent and brought in a psychiatrist to rubber stamp your assumptions. Bradley was pacing now. So what? You're going to cut us out completely? Punish us for caring? I'm not punishing you. I'm teaching you a lesson your father and I apparently failed to teach you. Don't underestimate people, especially your own mother. What does that mean for us? Margaret Wu answered. It means Mrs. Chen will continue to manage her own properties and finances without any interference from her children. It means there will be no power of attorney, no conservatorship, and no selling of property without Mrs. Chen's explicit consent. And the inheritance? Patricia asked in a small voice. Still exists, I said. You'll all inherit something when I die. But the hotel goes to Derek. And the rest will be divided according to a formula that heavily weights how much respect you show me while I'm still alive. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, Bradley. Also, you're 47,000 inches credit card debt and you lease a BMW you can't afford. Maybe focus on your own finances before you worry about mine. His face went white. How do you know? I'm your mother. I know everything. Dr. Harrison left first, apologizing profusely to me and shooting daggers at Bradley. I didn't envy him the bill he was going to receive for a psychiatric assessment that proved the opposite of what he wanted. My 3 children sat in stunned silence. Finally, Derek spoke. Mom, the hotel thing, you were serious? Completely serious. You're the only one who didn't try to steal from me, so you get the hotel. But I don't know anything about running a hotel. The current manager is excellent. Keep her on, learn from her, and in a few years you'll be an expert. Or don't learn, and just collect the income while she runs it, but it's yours. I don't know what to say. Thank you would be nice. Thank you, Mom. Really. Thank you. Patricia was crying quietly. Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean, we just thought. You thought I was a helpless old woman who needed you to swoop in and save her. Yes, she whispered. Patricia, I love you. But you spent $50,000 on a kitchen backsplash. Maybe don't take financial advice from yourself. Bradley still looked angry. So you've been lying to us for 40 years. I didn't lie. I just didn't correct your assumptions. That's the same thing. Is it? Did you ever ask me about my finances? Did you ever ask how I was managing after your father died? Did you ever wonder how I could afford to keep living in that big house on a widow's pension? He opened his mouth and closed it again. You assumed I was helpless because I'm a woman and I'm old. You never considered that maybe I was the one actually managing things all along. Dad always said, your father said a lot of things. Most of them were golf scores. I loved him dearly, but he couldn't balance a checkbook to save his life. Margaret Wu gathered the deeds back into her folder. I think we're done here. Mrs. Chen, I'll file these documents back in the vault. Mr. Chen, Miss Patterson, Mr. Chen the younger. It's been educational. Bradley stood up. This isn't over. Yes, it is, I said firmly. This is completely over. I'm going home to my fully paid off house. I'm going to have a cup of tea, and I'm going to review the financials for my 17 properties. You three are going to go home and think very hard about why you thought it was acceptable to try to take control of my life without asking me first. We were trying to help, then help by trusting me to know what I need. The next week was interesting. Bradley didn't call at all, which was fine. Patricia called 3 times to apologize, which I appreciated even if I didn't quite believe she understood what she was apologizing for. Derek called to ask if I was serious about the hotel, and we had a long conversation about property management and his future. But the best call was from Doris, my property manager and alleged bridge partner. Margaret, I heard what happened. How did you hear? Patricia called her friend Susan, who called her sister Rachel, who goes to my gym. The whole town knows your children tried to declare you incompetent and you own 17 properties. Wonderful. It is wonderful. Do you know how many of my friends have children who treat them like idiots? You're a hero. I'm really not. You are. You're the confused old lady who turned out to own half the town. It's magnificent. I had to laugh. Doris, please tell me you're not spreading this around. I'm not spreading anything. But if people ask, I'm certainly not lying. Of course not. Also, the Riverside apartments need a new water heater. Already, we just replaced that 2 years ago. And you know how the tenants are with the hot water. Order the new heater. Get 3 quotes. You want the cheapest? I want the best value. Cheap isn't always best. See? This is why you have 17 properties and your kids thought you were incompetent. You actually know what you're doing. 3 weeks later, Patricia called and asked if we could have a family dinner. All 3 kids wanted to talk to me. I agreed, but I insisted we meet at my house, not theirs. They showed up on Sunday at 6 p.m. I'd made pot roast, which is their favorite, and I'd set the table with the nice dishes. Bradley came in carrying flowers, which was suspicious. Patricia brought wine, which was less suspicious because she always brought wine. Derek brought his girlfriend, which was new. Everyone, this is Sarah, Derek said. Sarah, this is my mom, the secret real estate mogul. Sarah laughed. It's so nice to meet you. Derek's told me so much about you. All good things, I hope. Mostly stories about the hotel. He's very excited. And nervous, Derek added. We sat down to dinner. And for the first 10 minutes, it was almost normal. We talked about the weather. About Derek's yoga classes, about Patricia's daughter who was applying to colleges. But I could feel the tension building. Finally, Bradley cleared his throat. Mom, we wanted to apologize. You already apologized. No, we wanted to really apologize. All of us together. I set down my fork. I'm listening. Patricia spoke next. Mom, what we did was wrong. Not just wrong, it was insulting and disrespectful, and we should have never even considered it. We were treating you like you were incompetent when you're clearly more competent than any of us, Derek added. Bradley looked uncomfortable but continued. I talked to my therapist about this. You have a therapist? Yeah, I started seeing someone. Anyway, she helped me understand that I was projecting my own financial insecurity onto you. I assumed you couldn't manage money because I can barely manage my own finances. This was more self-awareness than I'd expected from Bradley. I appreciate that, I said carefully. We also wanted to ask you to teach us. Patricia said. Teach you what? How you did it? How you built all this? How you managed 17 properties while letting everyone think you were just Dad's wife? That's a long story. We have time, Derek said. So I told them. I told them about the first duplex, about learning property management from books and trial and error, about saving every penny while Richard spent money on golf clubs and expensive dinners, about incorporating each new property under a different LLC for liability protection, about finding good contractors and learning to spot bad tenants, about spreadsheets and cap rates and cash flow analysis. They listened, actually listened, for 2 hours. Mom, Patricia said finally, I had no idea you were doing all this. You never asked. I know, and I'm sorry for that too. I just assumed, I don't know what I assumed, that you were waiting for life to happen to you instead of making it happen. I've been making things happen for 40 years. I just didn't announce it with a press release. Bradley spoke up. I know I don't deserve to ask this, but would you be willing to help me? With my finances? I'm drowning, Mom, and I'm embarrassed to admit it, but I don't know what I'm doing. What about your pride? Your need to be in charge? Turns out, pride doesn't pay credit card bills. I almost smiled. Yes, I'll help you. But you have to actually listen to me and follow my advice. I will. I promise. Patricia raised her hand like she was in school. Can I get financial advice too? Does Howard know you're asking? Howard's the one who suggested it. He said if you could build this without anyone knowing, you clearly know what you're doing. Smart man, Howard. Over the next few months, I became an informal financial advisor to my children. Bradley came over every Wednesday, and we went through his finances line by line. We canceled credit cards, created a budget, and set up automatic savings. He hated every minute of it, but his debt started going down. Patricia and I had monthly meetings where I taught her about investing and property management. She was actually pretty good with numbers when she tried. Howard started joining us, and he had some smart questions about commercial real estate for his practice. Derek and I talked weekly about the hotel. I introduced him to my property manager for that building, and she was teaching him everything. He was a fast learner, and more importantly, he genuinely cared about doing a good job. But the best part was that they stopped treating me like I was fragile. Bradley called me last week with a question about refinancing his mortgage. Not to ask for money, just to ask for advice. Patricia texted me a funny meme about property taxes. Derek sent me pictures of improvements he wanted to make to the hotel and asked my opinion. They were treating me like a person, like a competent adult, like their mother who might actually know things. 6 months after the incident in Margaret Wu's office, I got another call from Bradley. Mom, can you come to Patricia's house? We want to talk to you about something. Here we go again, I thought. But his voice sounded different this time. Not scheming, just excited. I showed up to find all 3 kids waiting, plus their spouses and partners. Are you kicking me out of the family? I joked. Better, Derek said. Show her, Bradley. Bradley pulled out a folder. Of course, he had a folder and handed it to me. Inside were business plans, financial projections, and incorporation documents for something called Chen Family Properties, LLC. What is this? It's a family real estate investment company, Patricia explained. We want to invest in property together, with you managing it, obviously. You want to invest in real estate? We've been learning from you for 6 months, Bradley said. And we realized that what you built alone. We want to build something together, as a family. We each put in $50,000, Derek added. That's the inheritance money you gave us when Dad died. We're investing it in property. I looked at the business plan. It was actually pretty good. They'd identified a small apartment building for sale, run the numbers, calculated potential returns. Who put this together? We all did, Patricia said. But mostly Bradley. Turns out when he's not drowning in debt, he's actually pretty good at financial analysis. I flipped through the pages. The math checked out. The property was a good deal. The management plan was solid. What do you need from me? Your expertise. Your experience. Your wisdom, Bradley said. And if you're willing, we'd like you to be the managing partner. Managing partner? You make the final decisions. We trust your judgment. I looked at my 3 children, all watching me hopefully, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Pride. Let me get this straight, I said, sitting down in Patricia's overpriced living room chair. You want to pool your inheritance money, buy property together, and have me manage it? Yes, all 3 of them said in unison. Even though 6 months ago, you thought I was too senile to manage a checkbook? Bradley had the decency to look embarrassed. Especially because of that. We were idiots, Mom. Complete idiots. And these last 6 months have shown us exactly how much of an idiot I was. We were, Patricia corrected. I was just as bad, Derek shrugged. I tried to tell them, but nobody listens to the yoga instructor. Former yoga instructor, Sarah interjected. He quit last week to focus on the hotel full-time. I raised my eyebrows at Derek. You quit your job? The hotel is my job now. A real job, with health insurance and everything. He grinned. Turns out I like hospitality management. Who knew? I knew, I said. That's why I gave you the hotel. See, this is what we're talking about, Bradley said, gesturing at me. You see things in people they don't see in themselves. You knew Derek would be good at hotel management before he did. You knew Patricia was good with numbers. You even knew I was drowning in debt before I admitted it to myself. A mother knows. Exactly. So we want to learn from you, really learn. Not just fix our individual finances, but build something together. I looked at the business plan again. This building has 8 units. Purchase price is $680,000. You're putting down $150,000 total, which is just over 20%. We have you approved for the loan already, Patricia said. Well, approved pending your agreement. The interest rate is 6.2%. That's not bad for a commercial loan. What's the projected cash flow? After mortgage, taxes, insurance, and setting aside reserves for maintenance, we should clear about $2,400 per month. That's $800 each. And the cap rate? Bradley didn't even hesitate. 7.1% before mortgage, 4.2% cash-on-cash return after financing. I stared at him. You calculated cap rate? You taught me, remember? Net operating income divided by purchase price. I know what it is. I'm just surprised you remembered. Mom, I've been studying real estate investing like it's my job. Because if this works, maybe it will be my job. You want to leave your tech job? Eventually. Maybe. If we can build this into something real, Patricia jumped in. We're not expecting miracles. We know this is long-term. But we figured if you could turn 1 duplex into 17 properties over 40 years, maybe together we could build something significant over the next 20 or 30. Plus, Derek added, working with family sounds better than working for some corporation that doesn't care about you. Family businesses can be complicated, I warned. More complicated than me trying to have you declared incompetent? Bradley asked. Fair point. I closed the folder and looked at my children. If I agree to this, and I'm not saying I am, yet there would be conditions. Name them, Bradley said immediately. First, I make all final decisions about property purchases, management, and sales. You can bring me opportunities and suggestions, but I have final say. Agreed, all 3 said. Second, nobody gets to pull their investment out without unanimous agreement from everyone else. This is a long-term commitment, not a savings account. Makes sense, Patricia said. Third, we meet monthly to review the financials. Everyone has to understand the numbers. No passive investors who don't know what's happening. I like that, Derek said. Accountability. Fourth, if this works and we do well, Any profits get reinvested for the first 5 years. No pulling money out for kitchen renovations or BMWs. Bradley winced, but nodded. Fair. And fifth, I paused, making sure I had their full attention. If we do this, you stop treating me like I'm fragile. No more worried looks when I climb a ladder. No more, should mom be doing that, at her age conversations. I'm 72, not 92, and I'm perfectly capable. Deal, Patricia said firmly. And we're sorry about that, by the way. The overprotective thing was just as bad as trying to take your property. Worse, actually, I said. At least trying to steal from me was straightforward greed. Treating me like I'm helpless was insulting. You're right. We'll do better. I looked at the business plan one more time. The numbers were solid. The building was in a good location. The management strategy was sound. But more than that, this could be a way to actually teach my children what I'd learned. To build something together that might outlast me. Okay, I said finally. I'm in. The room erupted. Derek hugged me. Patricia started crying again. And Bradley looked like he might cry too, but was too proud to admit it. Really? Bradley asked. You're really going to do this with us? On one condition we didn't discuss yet. Their faces fell slightly. What condition? Howard and Sarah need to be included in the monthly meetings. They're part of this family too, and if we're building a family business, they should understand what we're doing. Howard, who had been silent until now, looked surprised. You want me involved? Patricia's going to make decisions that affect your family's finances. You should understand what's happening and have input. I don't know anything about real estate. Neither did I when I started. You'll learn. Sarah raised her hand tentatively. I'm not married to Derek yet. Yet, Derek said, grinning at her. Yet, she agreed, blushing. So, I'm not technically family. You're here, aren't you? That makes you family enough for me. We closed on the 8-unit building 6 weeks later. It was a weird feeling, signing documents with my children as partners, instead of just doing it alone like I'd done for 40 years. The building needed work. New roof, updated electrical, cosmetic improvements, but nothing structural. We hired contractors, and I taught Bradley and Patricia how to get multiple quotes, check references, and spot overcharging. Why is this guy charging $8,000 for painting when this other guy will do it for $4,500? Bradley asked, comparing quotes. Look at the scope of work. The cheaper guy is only doing 2 coats. The expensive guy includes all the prep work, 3 coats, and guarantees his work for a year. So expensive is better? Not always. But in this case, yes. Cheap paint jobs look cheap, and we're trying to attract quality tenants. Derek was learning too. He'd come over to watch us review contractor bids, taking notes on his phone. This is exactly like choosing vendors for the hotel. Same principles. Business is business, I said. Whether it's hotels or apartments or anything else, you need to balance cost, quality, and long-term value. Patricia had taken charge of the tenant screening process. She created a whole system with application forms, reference checks, and credit score requirements. Mom, look at this, she said, showing me a spreadsheet. I can track every applicant, their scores, their history, everything in one place. This is excellent, Patricia. Way better than my system. Your system? I have a notebook. Sometimes I remember to write things in it. She laughed. Mom, you manage 17 properties with a notebook? And a very organized filing system. And Doris, who's much more detail-oriented than I am. We should get Doris to train us on property management systems. Good idea. I'll set that up. Within 3 months, we had the building fully renovated and occupied. All 8 units rented at $200 more per month than we'd originally projected because Patricia had researched the market carefully and Derek had helped stage the units to look more appealing. Our first official monthly meeting as Chen Family Properties LLC was held in my dining room. Everyone brought snacks. Howard brought beer. We spread the financials across the table. Okay, I said. Let's review. Total rental income for the month was $9,600. Mortgage payment was $3,400. Property taxes were $680. Insurance was $210. We had one maintenance call for a leaky faucet, $125. We set aside $960 for reserves, which is 10% of gross income. That leaves us with $4,225, Bradley said, checking his calculator. Split 3 ways is $1,408 each. Do we take the money or reinvest? Patricia asked. Reinvest, I said. Remember, first 5 years we're building. But we could use the money, Bradley started, then stopped himself. No, you're right. Reinvest. Sorry, old habits. The fact that you caught yourself is progress, I said. Derek raised his glass of beer. To our first profitable month, we all clinked glasses. It felt good. Better than good. Over the next 2 years, Chen Family Properties grew. We bought 2 more buildings, then a small commercial space that we converted into 3 retail units. My kids learned fast. Faster than I'd expected. Bradley turned out to have a gift for finding undervalued properties. He'd spend hours on real estate websites, driving neighborhoods, talking to other investors. He found our best deal, a 12-unit building that needed major work but was in an up-and-coming area. Mom, I know this looks rough, he said, showing me the property, but look at the location. 3 new restaurants opened within 2 blocks this year. There's a coffee shop going in next door. In 5 years, this area is going to be completely gentrified. Gentrification is complicated, I reminded him. I know, we talked about this. We're not displacing anyone. The building is currently vacant. And we'll keep rents reasonable for the area. Reasonable is relative. Market rate minus 10%. We'll still make money, but we won't be part of the problem. I looked at him. When did you start thinking about the social implications of real estate investment? Since Sarah made me read that book about housing inequality, she's very persuasive. I like Sarah. So do I. That's why I'm asking her to marry me next week. Bradley, that's wonderful. Yeah, well, she already knows about my debt. She's seen me at my worst. And she still likes me. Figured I should lock that down. We bought the 12-unit building. It took 8 months to renovate, but when we were done, it was beautiful. We rented it at exactly market rate, minus 10%, like Bradley promised, and still cleared a healthy profit. Patricia had become our spreadsheet queen. She could tell you the occupancy rate, cash flow, and maintenance history of every unit we owned. She'd created systems for everything: tenant communications, maintenance requests, rent collection, vendor management. Mom, we need to talk about scaling, she said at one monthly meeting. Scaling what? The business. We're managing 4 buildings now, 32 units total, plus the commercial space. That's too much for just us and Doris. What are you suggesting? I think we need to hire a full-time property manager. Someone who can handle day-to-day operations while we focus on acquisition and strategy. That will cut into our profits. Short term, yes. But it will free us up to grow faster. And Mom, you're still managing your 17 other properties too. You're stretched thin. She was right. I'd been getting up at 5 a.m. to handle paperwork before everyone else started calling me with questions. Find me 3 candidates, I said. We'll interview together. Derek had surprised everyone by being the people person. He was the one tenants called when they had problems, and somehow he always made them feel heard, even when he couldn't solve their issue immediately. It's the yoga training, he explained. You learn to stay calm when someone is yelling at you about their chakras being misaligned. After that, a clogged toilet is easy. The hotel was thriving too. Derek had increased occupancy by 15% by partnering with local businesses and tourist attractions. He'd renovated the lobby, upgraded the website, and trained the staff in customer service. I might actually be good at this, he told me one day. Might be? Okay. I am good at this. It's weird. I spent 20 years trying to find what I was good at, and it turned out to be the thing you gave me. I didn't give it to you because I thought you'd fail, Derek. I gave it to you because I saw something in you. What did you see? Someone who cares about people. That's the most important skill in hospitality. On my 75th birthday, my kids threw me a party. Not at Patricia's house with the expensive furniture, but at the Beacon Inn in the renovated ballroom Derek had just finished. The room was full of people, my kids and their families. Doris and her husband, Margaret Wu, even some of the contractors we worked with regularly. There was a banner that said, "Happy birthday to the secret real estate mogul." "Really?" I said to Derek. "That's the banner you chose?" Sarah picked it. She thought it was funny. "It is funny," Sarah said, kissing my cheek. "You're a legend, Margaret." They'd set up a slideshow of photos me as a young mother, me and Richard, at various properties, me with my kids at different ages. But they'd also included recent photos. All of us at property inspections. Me teaching Patricia how to read a lease. Bradley and me looking at blueprints. Derek giving me a tour of the hotel renovations. "Speech," someone called out. I hate speeches. But I stood up anyway. 40 years ago, I said, I bought a duplex. My husband told everyone he was building a real estate empire. I let him say that because it made him happy. But really, I was the one buying properties, managing tenants, fixing toilets at 2 a.m., and learning everything from scratch. People laughed. I didn't tell anyone what I was doing because it seemed easier that way. No questions, no judgment, no one second-guessing my decisions. But that meant I did it alone. And while I'm proud of what I built by myself, I'm prouder of what we're building together now. I looked at my kids. 3 years ago, you tried to have me declared incompetent. It was insulting and infuriating, and honestly, kind of funny. But it also taught me something. I'd been so busy keeping secrets that I'd forgotten to teach you what I'd learned. That was my failure, not yours. Bradley opened his mouth to protest, but I held up my hand. These last few years, working with you, teaching you, learning from you, it's been the best investment I ever made. Not because of the money, though the money is nice, but because I finally get to share this with you. I spent 40 years building alone. Now I get to build with family. Patricia was crying. Again, that woman cried at everything. So, thank you, I continued. Thank you for being idiots 3 years ago, because it forced us to have conversations we should have had decades ago. Thank you for listening and learning and working hard. And thank you for not putting me in a home. Everyone laughed and applauded. Derek hugged me first, then Patricia, then even Bradley, who wasn't usually much of a hugger. We have one more surprise, Bradley said. I don't like surprises. You'll like this one. He pulled out, of course, a folder. Some things never change. Mom, we've been working on something for the last 6 months. We wanted to wait until your birthday to show you. Inside the folder was a business plan. A detailed, professional, comprehensive business plan for expanding Chen family properties into property management services for other investors. What is this? It's our proposal to turn our family business into a real business, Patricia explained. We manage our own properties really well. We've developed systems, relationships with contractors, expertise in tenant relations. Other small investors need these services. You want to manage other people's properties? We want to offer property management as a service, Bradley said. We'd still invest in our own properties, but we'd also manage properties for others. For a fee, obviously. This could scale significantly, Patricia added. There are hundreds of small landlords in this city who are doing what you did 40 years ago, managing everything themselves, learning as they go, making mistakes. We could help them. And make money doing it, Derek said. Win-win. I read through the business plan. It was good, really good. They'd done market research, competitive analysis, financial projections. They'd even identified potential clients and drafted service agreements. How long have you been working on this? 6 months, Bradley admitted. We wanted to make sure it was solid before we brought it to you. You did this without telling me? Is that ironic? Patricia asked. We learned secret keeping from the best. I had to laugh. Fair point. So what do you think? Derek asked. Would you be willing to expand into property management? I looked at the three of them, standing there hopefully, waiting for my approval. 3 years ago, they'd thought I was too confused to manage my own property. Now they were asking me to help them build a property management company. I think, I said slowly, that this is brilliant. I also think you don't need my permission. But we want your involvement, Bradley said. This only works if you're part of it. We need your expertise, Patricia added. And your reputation. People trust you. What reputation? I've been a secret investor for 40 years. Not anymore, Derek said, grinning. Doris has been very busy spreading the word about the confused old lady who owns half the town. You're famous. Doris did what? Made you a legend. Every small landlord in the city knows your story. They all want to be you. I shook my head. Doris is getting a raise. Is that a yes? Bradley asked. It's a yes, I said. Let's build a property management company. But I have one condition. Name it. The company needs a better name than Chen Family Properties LLC. We renamed the company Chen Property Group. More professional, less emphasis on family, better for when we eventually hire non-family employees. The property management side of the business launched 6 months later. Our first client was a nervous 5-year-old woman who had just inherited a triplex from her grandfather and had no idea what to do with it. I don't know anything about being a landlord, she told me at our initial meeting. My grandfather made it look easy, but I'm terrified I'm going to mess everything up. Your grandfather made it look easy because he'd been doing it for 40 years, I said. Nobody starts out knowing what they're doing. But what if I make expensive mistakes? You will. Everyone does. But that's why you're hiring us, to help you avoid the biggest mistakes and recover from the smaller ones. We took over management of her triplex. Patricia handled the tenant relations. Bradley reviewed the financials and suggested some strategic improvements. And Derek helped her understand the business side. Within 6 months, her property was running smoothly, and she was thinking about buying another building. I can't believe how different this is with professional help, she said. I was losing sleep every night, worrying about everything. That's what we do, I told her. We lose sleep so you don't have to. Word spread fast. Within a year, we were managing 40 properties for various owners, plus our own growing portfolio. We hired 3 full-time employees, including a maintenance coordinator and an office manager. Bradley had quit his tech job and was running acquisitions full-time. Patricia was splitting her time between our business and helping Howard expand his dental practice into a second location. Derek was still running the hotel, but was also heading up our client relations. At one of our monthly meetings, now held in an actual office instead of my dining room, Patricia pulled out a spreadsheet. Okay, I've been running numbers, she said. Between our ownership portfolio and the management fees, Chen Property Group is on track to gross $2.8 million this year. Gross, not net. Bradley clarified. Net is more like $600,000 after all expenses. Still, Derek said. That's pretty good for a company that didn't exist 3 years ago. It's excellent, I agreed. You should all be proud. We couldn't have done it without you, Mom, Patricia said. Sure you could have. Eventually. But not as fast, and not as well, Bradley insisted. You gave us the foundation. We just built on it. Margaret Wu, who had joined us for this meeting as our corporate attorney, spoke up. Margaret, can I make a suggestion? Of course. You need to start thinking about succession planning. The room went quiet. I'm not dead yet, Margaret. I know. But you're 75. Statistically speaking, you should think about the long-term structure of the business and your personal holdings. Are you saying I'm old? I'm saying you're smart enough to plan ahead. You've built something significant. You should protect it. She was right, of course. I'd been avoiding this conversation because thinking about estate planning meant thinking about death, and I wasn't ready for that. Okay, I said. What do you suggest? We should have a separate meeting to discuss details, but broadly speaking, you need to clarify ownership structures, establish clear succession plans, and make sure everything is protected legally. Translation: I need to update my will. Among other things, yes. Bradley looked uncomfortable. Mom, we're not trying to pressure you. I know, and Margaret's right. We should do this properly. 3 months later, I called all my kids to Margaret Wu's office. Not for an ambush this time, but for a proper discussion about the future. Okay, I said, once everyone was seated. Let's talk about what happens when I die. Mom, don't. Patricia started. Patricia, I'm 75. I'm in good health. I plan to live another 20 years at least, but we need to discuss this. Margaret Wu agrees. Actually, Margaret Wu has been nagging me about this for months. Years, Margaret Wu corrected. I've been nagging you for years. Fine, years. Anyway, here's the situation. I own 17 properties personally, through various LLCs. Together, we own Chen Property Group, which includes our joint properties and the management business. We need to clarify what happens to all of it. I pulled out folders, yes. I had learned the folder trick from Bradley and handed one to each person. These are my current estate plans. I want you to review them and give me feedback. Bradley opened his folder cautiously, like it might explode. Inside was a detailed breakdown of my personal holdings and proposed distribution. Mom, this says, you're leaving your 17 properties to Chen Property Group? Yes. They'll become corporate assets, owned collectively by the three of you through your existing ownership structure. But that's worth millions, Patricia said. 3.4 million, last appraisal. But they come with 900,000 inches remaining mortgages, so net value is 2.5 million. Still, Derek said, that's a lot. You've earned it. You took what could have been a disaster, trying to have me declared incompetent, and turned it into an opportunity to learn and grow. You built a business with me. You deserve to inherit the whole thing. What about the hotel? Derek asked. Your will from before said I get the hotel. You already have the hotel. I transferred ownership to you last year. Did you not read the paperwork you signed? I thought that was just management transfer. Read your documents, Derek. He laughed. I own the hotel? You own the hotel, free and clear. No mortgage, no strings. It's yours. Mom, that's too much. It's not enough, but it's what I have to give. Patricia was reading further into her folder. Mom, this section about the management company, you're structuring it so we have equal ownership? Yes. Currently, you each own a third based on your initial investments. I'm setting it up so that stays equal regardless of future capital contributions. Nobody can buy out anyone else without unanimous consent. Why? Bradley asked. Because you work well together when you're equal partners. The moment one person has more power, the dynamic changes. I've seen it happen in other family businesses. I won't let it happen to ours. Our business, Patricia said softly. You really think of it that way? Of course. I started it, but you've all made it what it is. This is as much your company as mine. Margaret Wu cleared her throat. There's one more section you should all review. Page 12. They flipped to page 12. I watched their faces as they read. Mom, Bradley said, looking up with tears in his eyes. You're establishing a scholarship fund? The Margaret Chen Scholarship for Women in Real Estate. 500,000 endowment. Managed by the company. For women who want to enter real estate investing, but don't have the capital or connections to get started. This is beautiful, Patricia whispered. I spent 40 years building wealth in secret because I thought that was easier. I want to help other women build wealth openly, confidently, without having to pretend they're something they're not. Why didn't you tell us you were planning this? Derek asked. Because I wanted it to be a surprise. A good surprise this time, not the bad surprise of finding out your mother is actually rich. We spent another 2 hours going through the details. Margaret Wu had done an incredible job structuring everything to minimize taxes, protect assets, and ensure the business could continue smoothly after I was gone. This is really comprehensive, Bradley said. You've thought of everything. Margaret Wu thought of everything. I just wrote the checks. We're still expensive, Margaret Wu said cheerfully, but worth it. As we were leaving, Patricia pulled me aside. Mom, thank you for all of this, for trusting us with your legacy. You're my legacy, honey. The properties are just buildings. You three and what you've built together, That's what matters. I'm 78 now. Still sharp, still active, still buying property. Chen Property Group manages 127 properties for 43 different clients, including our own portfolio of 12 buildings. We have 15 employees, an office downtown, and a reputation for excellence in property management. Bradley is our CEO. He's good at it, better than I expected. He's completely debt-free now, drives a sensible used car, and actually saves money. His therapist says he's made remarkable progress. I say he just finally grew up. Patricia runs operations. Her systems and spreadsheets have become industry standard among small property management companies. She's been asked to speak at real estate conferences twice this year. Howard opened his third dental office and lets Patricia handle all the real estate decisions. Derek runs the hotel and also oversees all our client relations. The Beacon Inn has become a boutique destination, featured in travel magazines and consistently booked solid. He married Sarah 3 years ago, and they're expecting their first child in June. I'm going to be a grandmother again. The scholarship fund has helped 12 women start their real estate investing careers. 3 of them are now clients of Chen Property Group. 2 have become competitors, which I love. One sent me a thank you note that said, "You taught me I don't have to choose between being kind and being powerful." I have that note framed in my office. My kids threw me another party for my 78th birthday. Smaller this time, just family and close friends. We met at the Riverside Apartments, the first building we bought together as Chen Property Group. "Remember when we bought this place?" Bradley said, looking around the renovated courtyard. "I was so nervous about the numbers." "You were nervous about everything," Patricia teased. "I was. Mom had to hold my hand through the whole process. And now you're buying buildings without me," I said proudly. "We still run everything by you." "I know, but you don't need to anymore." "Of course we do," Derek said. "You're the secret weapon." "I'm not so secret anymore." "True. Now you're the very public, very famous Margaret Chen, real estate mogul and scholarship benefactor." I preferred being a secret mogul. "Too late," Sarah said, laughing. "You're a role model now. Own it." Later that evening, after most people had left, my 3 kids and I sat in the courtyard under the string lights Derek had insisted on installing. "Mom," Bradley said, "can I ask you something?" "Always." "Do you ever regret keeping it all secret for so long? All those years of letting people underestimate you?" I thought about it. Sometimes I missed out on some opportunities because I was afraid to be visible. But mostly, no. Being underestimated gave me freedom. Nobody questioned my choices because they didn't know I was making choices. "That's kind of sad," Patricia said. "Maybe, but it's also how I built everything. If I'd been loud about what I was doing, your father might have interfered. Society might have judged. I had space to make mistakes and learn from them without everyone watching." "Do you think things are different now?" Derek asked. "For women in real estate?" "Different, yes. Better, definitely. But still not equal. That's why the scholarship matters. We need more women who know they can do this, that they don't have to hide or apologize for being ambitious." "You never apologized for anything," Bradley said. "Not true. I apologized for plenty of things. I just didn't apologize for being competent." We sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the fountain Derek had installed in the courtyard. It was peaceful. "Hey, Mom," Patricia said suddenly. "Remember when we tried to have you declared incompetent?" "Vividly." "That was so stupid." "Yes, it was, but also kind of the best thing that ever happened to us as a family. Because it forced us to actually talk to each other," Derek added. "And because you got to reveal that you're secretly rich and brilliant," Bradley said. "That must have been satisfying." "It really was," I admitted. "Watching your faces when Margaret Wu spread out all those property deeds? Best moment of my life." "Better than our births?" Patricia asked, in mock offense. "Different kind of joy. Birth is beautiful but terrifying. Revenge is just fun." We all laughed. "So, what's next?" Derek asked. "You're 78. You have more money than you can spend. The business is thriving. What else is there?" "I'm thinking about writing a book," I said. A book? About what? About building wealth while everyone thinks you're confused. About being underestimated and using it to your advantage. About real estate investing for women who don't fit the typical investor profile. That's actually a great idea, Bradley said. You should do it. Maybe. Or maybe I'll just keep buying property and causing trouble. Why not both? Patricia suggested. Both sounds good. As we were leaving that night, Derek hugged me extra tight. What's that for? I asked. For not giving up on us. When we tried to take your property, you could have just cut us off, but you taught us instead. You're my kids. I'll always teach you, even when you're idiots. Especially when we're idiots, Bradley said. Especially then, I agreed. I drove home that night in my 8-year-old Camry still runs perfectly and thought about how strange life is. 40 years of building wealth in secret, 5 years of mourning my husband, 3 years of being too confused to manage my own affairs. And now, at 78, I'm exactly where I want to be. Building something meaningful with people I love, teaching what I've learned, and still occasionally buying property just because I can. The kids still don't know everything. They don't know about the 3 commercial buildings I bought last year under a separate LLC. They don't know about my plan to expand into residential development. They don't know that I'm considering buying the office building where Bradley used to work, just for the irony. Some secrets are worth keeping, not because I'm hiding or afraid, but because it's fun to surprise people. And at 78, I've earned the right to have a little fun. My name is Margaret Chen. I own 23 properties worth $7.8 million. I'm the secret founder of Chen Property Group. I've been playing dumb for 40 years, and I'm just getting started. Like this video if it touched something in you. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories about what it means to be human, to be family, and to choose love even when it's complicated. I'll see you next time.